We've been a little bit frustrated with Escobar, but, you start taking a look at some of these numbers and home runs and RBIs and everything. A couple of these guys are close to like DJ LeMahieu in some of the output that they have.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just that they've had
sneaky.
I just feel like the last 3 weeks, unfortunately, it's just been up and down, up and down. And yesterday may have been one of the better wins of the season, given the fact that they were missing a couple guys. It was Bassett, a new starter that we love, and it was 2 other guys that Canna's been good. There's nothing wrong. Nobody's criticizing him.
Right. What I loved about him though is he was made to look silly by Charlie Morton in his first 2 at bats, and then came back and hit the home run in his third at bat, and you could see how fired up he was. I mean, it's stuff like that I love about this team, where that adjustments were made. That Buck has them totally prepared. And yesterday we called it a must-win, and they went out there and the bats did it. The bats that we saw go completely silent the night before came out, and that's what won the game.
Exactly. That's exactly what won the game. And man, I tell you, when you're, I'm in the middle of game time yesterday, and I'm interviewing, I'm trying to find out what's going on in the game and all this other stuff. You know how satisfying it is, like when you see 4-0, then you see 5-0,
right?
And then you're like, all right, we got this one. And I have to say, out of all the crap that's gone on in the month of June and early July here, that was great yesterday. That was a really satisfying win to take 2 out of 3 from them. Move yourself, back to where you were when you got there, and then now you have to go and don't blow this. You got to take 3 out of 4 from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
You got to take 3 out of 4 from Chicago. And you just
how about all 4 and go on a little bit of a winning streak for once going into the All-Star break? Let's set the bar high. The Cubs stink. And you also got Marcus Stroman pitching one of these games, so that's going to be another one of those real fun ones for the Chicago Cubs. So, yeah, I mean, the Cubs are terrible. The Mets, I mean, I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. I was definitely not feeling great about the series.
I don't think anybody was.
Well, I mean, because of the injuries. I was really nothing personal with the Mets. Yeah. I mean, I love this team this year, but it's just that what they were dealing with, well, I guess not just injuries, but also Jeff McNeil not being there as well. Not having Marte and McNeil in the lineup just changes everything for them. So that's why I wasn't feeling good about it. After yesterday, I'm emboldened again. I'm cocky again. I'm feeling great again. It's amazing the ups and downs of a baseball season, but if you're not fired up about this team after this series, then just pack it up and go home, because this is what it's all about. I mean, in their house with how well they were playing, and the Mets roll in here all depleted. They take 2 out of 3.
I said yesterday that all of a sudden watching them and seeing, and I know that they're the defending world champions, don't want to take anything away from them, but watching them, I'm not overly intimidated by them.
Yeah, they're all or nothing type of team.
That's what I'm saying. And all or nothing type of teams, that's great. And when it's going all their way, then more power to them. But if you can just outpitch them, and they do have some pretty good pitchers as well, but if you could just outpitch them, it's almost like playing against the Yankees over the last few years.
Sure.
It's an all or nothing thing, and it's the thing that had driven Yankee fans crazy. They don't have the right lineup. They don't know how to build the lineup. And then, of course, last night, it's an IKF night, and he has a big night. And I know they were worrying about on the broadcast, are you worried about his throwing in a big spot? It is something that we got to wait until we get to October.
Yeah, I mean, he's played a lot of shortstop.
He's played good, man.
He's played pretty well. I don't think
more offensive pop than we ever thought.
Right, exactly. And he hits that gapper last night, which was a huge deal in the comeback. But I don't think that he's going to cost them a game defensively with some sort of horrible throw. I can't sit here and say that. I mean, he's not as good defensively as he was advertised. We weren't watching him out in the field in his previous destinations. But I can't sit here and say that I'm that. I was worried about Gleyber Torres at shortstop last year. There was no doubt about it. Him defensively. I don't have that same feeling with him.
Well, we'll see when we get there, and the games are on the line, and it's money time. Then we'll find out exactly. But again, I'm thinking about general managers, and I'm thinking about decisions that they have to make and how they have to kind of, meander around. Well, in the NHL and the NBA, it's the salary cap stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just absolutely nuts in how it impacts every single decision that they make. And then I think, in Major League Baseball, it's the luxury tax. It's how much you're going to pay this guy $300 million, you're going to pay that guy $300 million, you're going to pay that guy $300 million. So then you got to cut corners in other areas and try to have reasonable contracts so your owner can sign off on it. And that's why IKF is here. That's why Rizzo is here. And those two guys are living up to the expectations that Brian Cashman certainly had for them and the money they're making. And IKF is making no money compared to everybody else.
Sure.
So he plays the most important position on the diamond. And while everybody else is bitching and complaining about Aaron Judge not getting his contract, in the meantime, Brian Cashman's got to figure out how to manipulate the money to keep it at a reasonable number so Hal Steinbrenner doesn't come down on him.
Sure, and you had other guys who were available there over the last number of years, and the Yankees had stayed away. You had guys this past offseason that were being bandied about, whether it was Freddie Freeman at first base or Carlos Correa at shortstop.
You can't do it. You can't do it. If you're going to pay Judge, you just can't do all of it.
And that's what they assumed was going to happen, is that Judge contract was going to get done. Now, we don't know if it's going to happen at the end of the year, but that's why they were holding back. I mean, I know the Marlins are paying some of the salary from Giancarlo Stanton, but it's still a significant contract.
Like 20% or something like that.
Yeah, but it's still, it's a significant amount for the Yankees still that they have to pay. And Stanton. And then also, you've got the Garrett Cole contract, and you're going to end up eventually, hopefully for the Yankees and Aaron Judge, paying Aaron Judge. That's three guys right there.
Who's most likely not going to be here next year is Chapman.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to be here this year. I remember talking about that in last offseason, saying that's a guy that you could trade and then save whatever, the $17 million. So I agree. I don't believe he will be back next year. And plus, you've got Clay Holmes doing what he's doing this year. It's good to see him get back on the horse.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice to actually get him back on the field and give him a chance in a high leverage situation. And it wasn't without a little bit of agita, but he got through it, and that's the thing you have to do. You have to come back the next day, forget about the day before, and I think he proved he was able to do that. So we often talk about, what do I say that general managers have to be?
Ruthless.
Right, so this is how my man, Chris Drury, was ruthless. So he's got Andrew Kopp and he's got Ryan Strome on this team. And both players, really good players, and Ryan Strome was a great trade for the Rangers. His production, who we traded him, for, and everything else was, when we brought him here, nobody expected the numbers and the synergy that he was going to have with Artemi Panarin. But I always felt like a really good player. I just wondered about whether or not he could actually get to that next level and help you win a Stanley Cup. And unfortunately, he got hurt this year, and he had an opportunity to seal one of the games or tie one of the games with a puck on his stick, and he just couldn't get it done. And it's not his fault. I mean, he didn't play 100%, and he tried to play through that pelvic injury. Mm-hmm. But I knew that, Chris Drury supposedly was negotiating with him as the season was going on. He wanted to stay here. He wanted a certain number. And he ends up with the Anaheim Ducks, as does Frank Vetrano. So they think that they got themselves, two really good offensive players out there in Anaheim. And I would tell you, they do. But Chris Drury was not going to bring back Strome, Kopp, or Vetrano. He knew who he wanted. He wanted this kid, Vincent Trocheck. And he wanted to get him from the Carolina Hurricanes. So he had to manipulate the money. He had to get rid of his Nemeth, a bad contract. So they send him to Arizona. They get rid of that $2.5 million. They got rid of Gorgiev. They made a trade. They got 3 picks back for him. All good stuff. But he gave Trocheck more money and more term than both Ryan Strome and Andrew Kopp got from their respective new teams. Kopp with the Red Wings, Strome with the Anaheim Ducks. That, to me, is what I call ruthless. That is like he knew who he wanted. He wanted a better player out of those 3 of those players, and he was willing to go 2 years longer and more money per year.
All right, so let me ask you.
I love it. I actually love the signing. The guy is a really good player. He does everything for your team, and he's a good face-off guy.
What's it like now to have Louis Domingue on the Rangers?
Yeah, well, whatever. He's a backup goalie, and we'll see if we even see him. He'll probably start down in Hartford.
Oh,
but
man,
we also have Yaroslav Halak.
Yeah, that's
who's
right.
Like 10-1-1 at Madison Square Garden. Hopefully he does that for the Rangers when we ask him to play.
That did make me laugh. All right, would it be ruthless or stupid? Ruthless or stupid for Leon Rose to put R.J. Barrett in that Donovan Mitchell deal?
I don't want that.
But is it ruthless or stupid?
I don't think that's ruthless.
It would be too much. The more I thought about it, it's too much.
I think it's too much.
You can get that deal done without him being in there. And by the way, as I mentioned right at the top, it's now serious. So last night, in the middle of the night, or around midnight or so, Shams put that out there on his Twitter account and at The Athletic. And it's the focused destination is what
Well,
he
it's
said.
good. They got to try to keep, I believe they got to try to keep R.J. Barrett. You got to try to keep some of your young players, man. I mean, I know you're going to have Mitchell Robinson,
He's going to stay here, obviously. But, I mean, if Quickly, Grimes, let's say the 4 first-rounders go, and Obi Toppin as well, that's a haul. But
that's a haul, and that's 3 of your young players that you drafted and you're trying to develop and all that other stuff. But in order to get somebody that's 25 years old and is established as one of the better point guards in the NBA.
Well, 3-time All-Star, yes.
Right, you got to give something to get something. So there's no question about that. I just don't want to throw R.J. Barrett in there. Too high of a draft choice. Worked really hard over the last 3 years to get him to get where he is getting better every single year. And I love his attitude. I love how he plays. I love the things that he says after games. I really don't want to lose that kid.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Knicks will end up trading him. I just wonder if there's a better package out there from another team that entices the Jazz to send Donovan Mitchell there. But he clearly wants to be a New York Knick. There's
I think
no two ways about it.
I think that's part of the equation that you have to take into account. Now, if somehow Miami gets involved,
they are involved, but they only have 2 first-rounders to trade, where the Knicks have 4 first-rounders to trade.
So, that's the thing. Like Miami's always the destination, I think, that every player in every sport would love to go to, maybe with the exception of baseball, for a number of reasons. One, it's a great place to live. It's a lot of fun.
Sure.
And there's no state tax.
That's right.
And I think every player looks at that and they say, okay, this is why the Tampa Bay Lightning end up signing who they end up signing, and they always sign them for a little bit less than you think that the guys deserve because they're taking into account that they're not paying state tax.
Sure.
So they have a definite built-in advantage for any team that's down there. But I hope they don't put R.J. Barrett in there. I'm glad that they are knee-deep in this. This is a type of player at the age of 25, just like Brunson, who, and think about if you're the Dallas Mavericks. You draft Brunson in the 2nd round. He develops into this really good player for you, and then you lose him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it would feel like if you start losing guys like R.J. Barrett, you start losing guys like Obi Toppin. Like, you've got him here.
Well, that was a legit loss for the Mavericks, whereas these guys, well, at least Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, Manuel Quickly, the 3 of them would be in a Donovan Mitchell trade, and you're getting something back, and all of a sudden the team's more exciting than it's been in a decade.
Right, yeah, so I'm with you, but we got to keep some of these young guys, man. I mean, you got to.
Yeah, I mean,
So you got Mitchell Robinson, Jericho Sims. Let's say you keep R.J. Barrett. You trade the other guys that you're talking about. You still have Julius Randle here. You still have Derrick Rose here. You still have Evan Fournier here.
Yeah, I know, which is not great. It's not great. But listen, if you want to get that superstar, then you're going to have to give something up. And it's going to have to be picks, and it's going to have to be young, controllable players on rookie contracts. So if you want to just keep spinning your wheels, here's the thing. The Knicks, as you said, at draft, the day after the draft, let's see where this goes, because I was so pissed off that they didn't end up picking a player, because if you got 1 or 2 ways to go. You're either going to build through the draft and hopefully the players that you're picking are turning into something, or you're going to take those assets and you're going to try to get other players from other teams by using those assets. So the Knicks decided not to pick a lottery pick this year. So now I want to see those assets and everything that you're able to get, and all those, getting picks back for this and Kemba Walker and all the moves. Get those assets and put them in the deal for a Donovan Mitchell, because then everything they did draft night makes sense.
Right. So that morning after, I was laughing because we drafted a French guy and they basically ran him off the stage.
Yeah.
And they traded him before he could even, say hello, New York. I mean, it was gone. I mean, it was over.
That was it.
And so I laughed, and it was great, and it was funny, and it was very entertaining for us. But I did say the next morning, as you're pointing out, that, okay, the decisions that they made the previous 2 years have come back to haunt them. They made the wrong decisions. And now they have to kind of fix those decisions. And anything that's happening right now is in due response to those decisions they made the previous 2 years. And getting rid of Kemba Walker was one of them, just like having to get rid of Alexander Gorgiev or Patrick Nemeth for the Rangers. And they're kind of doing the same kind of thing. And when you get a guy like Vincent Trocheck, I'm not saying that he's Donovan Mitchell-like, but I'll tell you one thing, he's a damn good hockey player and his exact type of tough, grinder, gritty guy that you want on your team. So this is what the Knicks are trying to do. is exactly what the Rangers are trying to do. And I also think, like, when you take a look at what the Islanders did, and I know I'm going into hockey and trying to meld all this together, and I'm melding it together because it's decisions that GMs are making. You know, Lou Lamoriello is what, 78 years old or 76 years old, whatever
somewhere
he is.
in there, yeah.
He's not looking like 3, 4, 5 years down the line. He wants to win right now. So every decision he's making right now is trying to get the team better. Now, Johnny Gaudreau did not want to come here because Columbus offered him a lot more money than the Islanders did. But he made a trade on draft day. He traded his 13th overall pick for a 22-year-old defenseman, this kid Romanoff, who's a play now guy, and he's a guy that's going to just completely improve their defense, which is exactly what he should be doing. And if you're an Islander fan, I know you're probably frustrated that you didn't get Johnny Gaudreau, but at the end of the day, Johnny Gaudreau took the money over the opportunity, because I do believe that the Islanders offered somewhere close to $9.75 a year, but they couldn't go that far. You got to balance your balance sheet. You take a look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and their balance sheet, and you take a look at their forwards. Their forwards are making $51 million out of the $82 million cap. And all of a sudden, you wonder why they never win a Stanley Cup. They got all these great players, and they're top heavy. So you got to try to balance all this stuff. And I think Lou was trying to do that with Gaudreau. I know that the Devils wanted him, but I don't think the Devils even got as high as $9.75. And Gaudreau basically took the money. He and his wife took the money, and they went to Columbus, and a shocker of all shockers in the NHL. But all I know is that, when you are Leon Rose, when you are Chris Drury, when you're Lou Lamoriello, when you're Billy Epler, you're Brian Cashman, you're Joe Douglas, you're Joe Shane. I mean, you got to make decisions that, you hope are going to impact your team in real time right now. This is not rebuild time for any of these. Maybe for the Giants it is, but not for any of these other teams. These other teams now are all about winning a championship, and the Mets are right at the top of the list right now.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.